Between 1950 and 1954, Japan lost over 9 ships and more than 700 sailors in a single stretch of ocean south of Tokyo, and not one wreck, not one body, not one distress signal was ever recovered. The vessels didn't sink. They didn't capsize. They simply ceased to exist. The Japanese government was so alarmed that in 1955 they officially designated this area a danger zone for maritime travel. This region, known as the Devil's Sea, or Ma-no Umi in Japanese, sits in the Pacific Ocean between Japan, Guam, and the Philippines. It is one of 12 so-called vile vortices on the planet, and it mirrors the Bermuda Triangle almost perfectly on the opposite side of the globe. What is consuming everything that enters these waters? The Devil's Sea sits within a region formerly called the Dragon's Triangle, stretching roughly between Japan's Miyakijima Island, the island of Guam, and the western edge of the Philippine Sea. For centuries, Japanese fishermen called these waters the Sea of the Devil and spoke of ancient dragons that lived beneath the surface, pulling ships down into the abyss. These weren't just folk tales. Historical records from the Edo period document dozens of vessels that vanished without explanation in this precise area. Chinese maritime texts from as far back as 1000 BCE reference a region of the Pacific where ships were consumed by the sea itself. The Dragon's Triangle sits along the Pacific Ring of Fire, one of the most geologically violent zones on Earth. Underwater volcanic eruptions, seismic shifts, and magnetic anomalies are constant here. But even geology struggles to explain what happened in the 1950s. In the spring of 1952, the Japanese government made a decision that would end in tragedy. After losing multiple fishing vessels and cargo ships in the Devil's Sea throughout 1950 and 1951, Japan's Maritime Safety Agency dispatched a research vessel to investigate the disappearances. The ship was called the Kaiyo Maru No. 5, a 270-ton survey vessel carrying 31 crew members and scientists from the Hydrographic Office. On September 24, 1952, the Kaiyo Maru No. 5 sailed into the Devil's Sea to study the underwater volcanic and seismic activity believed to be responsible for the losses. It was never heard from again. When search vessels finally located debris weeks later, they found only scattered wreckage, no survivors, no bodies, no explanation. The ship sent to solve the mystery became the mystery's most famous victim. The official Japanese explanation was swift and convenient. An underwater volcanic eruption destroyed the Kaiyo Maru No. 5. The region near Myojin-sho Reef had indeed experienced volcanic activity. A new island had temporarily formed and collapsed in the area in September 1952. But investigators who later examined the timeline found troubling inconsistencies. The eruption at Myojin-sho was documented on September 23rd, a full day before the Kaiyo Maru departed for its final survey. The crew would have been aware of the eruption and would have avoided the immediate area. Furthermore, the debris field was found far from the volcanic site, scattered across an impossibly wide radius. If the ship had been destroyed by a sudden eruption, wreckage would have been concentrated in one location. Instead, it looked as if the vessel had been torn apart across miles of open ocean. The Japanese government classified the full investigation report and never publicly released its findings. The Kaiyo Maru was far from the first vessel to vanish. Throughout the late 1940s and early 1950s, the Devil's Sea consumed ships at an alarming rate. Japanese military records document the loss of at least 5 large fishing vessels between 1950 and 1952 alone, each disappearing without distress calls. But the mystery reaches back much further. During World War II, both Japanese and American military forces reported bizarre compass malfunctions, sudden violent weather changes, and unexplained electromagnetic interference in this precise region. American bomber crews flying missions over the Pacific reported instruments spinning wildly when crossing through the Devil's Sea coordinates. In 1945, a squadron of Japanese reconnaissance planes reportedly vanished during a patrol of the area, eerily similar to the famous Flight 19 incident in the Bermuda Triangle that same year. 2 nearly identical incidents on opposite sides of the world in the same year. In 1989, author Charles Berlitz, the same man who brought the Bermuda Triangle into mainstream consciousness, published a book called The Dragon's Triangle. Berlitz claimed that between 1950 and 1954, over 1,000 lives were lost in the Devil's Sea, and that the Japanese government had deliberately suppressed the true scale of the disaster. He drew direct parallels between the two triangles, noting that both sit at roughly the same latitude, between 25 and 35 degrees north, and both occupy positions where warm and cold ocean currents collide violently. Berlitz also highlighted that both regions are situated over deep ocean trenches and exhibit powerful magnetic anomalies. He argued this was not coincidence. These were connected phenomena, part of a planetary pattern that mainstream science refused to acknowledge. Critics dismissed Berlitz as a sensationalist, but his core data about the disappearances was never actually refuted. One of the most disturbing aspects of the Devil's Sea is its connection to the concept of vile vortices, a theory proposed by biologist and researcher Ivan T. Sanderson in 1972. Sanderson identified 12 equally spaced points around the globe where ships, planes, and people vanished at statistically impossible rates. The Bermuda Triangle was one. The Devil's Sea was another. But what stunned researchers was the geometric precision. These 12 points, when mapped, formed a perfect icosahedron, a 20-sided geometric solid, inscribed within the Earth's sphere. Sanderson argued these were nodes of intense electromagnetic and gravitational anomalies, points where the Earth's magnetic field behaved in ways physics could not explain. He published his findings in a 1972 article in Saga magazine titled "The 12 Devil's Graveyards Around the World." The scientific establishment ignored him completely. But his geometry was mathematically undeniable. Beneath the Devil's Sea lies one of the deepest points on the entire planet. The Izu Bonin Trench plunges to depths exceeding 32,000 feet, a chasm so deep that entire mountain ranges could be swallowed within it. This trench runs directly through the heart of the Devil's Sea and is part of a chain of subduction zones where the Pacific tectonic plate is being forced beneath the Philippine Sea Plate. The geological violence here is staggering. In 1953, just 1 year after the Kaiyo Maru vanished, a massive underwater volcanic eruption in the region created a temporary island that rose above the surface before collapsing back into the ocean within months. Scientists from the University of Tokyo documented electromagnetic disturbances emanating from the trench floor that could not be attributed to any known geological process. Instruments recorded magnetic field fluctuations strong enough to interfere with navigation equipment from hundreds of miles away. Something beneath that trench is generating energy that science has never properly identified. Perhaps the most controversial theory surrounding the Devil's Sea involves the legendary lost continent of Mu, sometimes called Lemuria. In the 1920s and 1930s, British author James Churchward published a series of books claiming that an advanced ancient civilization had once existed on a massive continent in the Pacific Ocean. According to Churchward, Mu was destroyed approximately 12,000 years ago in a catastrophic geological event that sank the entire landmass beneath the waves. He claimed the ruins of this civilization lay directly beneath what we now call the Devil's Sea. In 1986, Japanese dive instructor Kiichiro Aratake discovered the Yonaguni Monument, a massive underwater structure off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island that appears to feature terraced platforms, staircases, and precisely carved stone walls. Geologist Masaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyu spent over 15 years studying the structure and concluded it was man-made, dating back at least 10,000 years. Mainstream archaeology rejected his findings without conducting their own investigation. The United States military has its own troubling history with the Devil's Sea. During the Cold War, American nuclear submarines frequently patrolled the waters between Japan and Guam, directly through the heart of the Dragon's Triangle. In 1968, the USS Scorpion, an American nuclear submarine, was lost at sea in the Atlantic under mysterious circumstances. But declassified Navy documents revealed that the Scorpion had previously conducted operations in the Western Pacific, including passages through the Devil's Sea, where crew members reported severe instrument malfunctions and unexplained electromagnetic interference. More disturbing still, in January 1968, just months before the Scorpion vanished, the Israeli submarine INS Dakar and the French submarine Minerve also disappeared. 3 submarines from 3 different nations lost within months of each other. The U.S. Navy's investigation into the Scorpion remains partially classified to this day. 60 years later, they still won't tell us what those submarines encountered. In 2013, Japanese oceanographers from JAMSTEC, the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology, deployed deep-sea probes into the Izubonin Trench directly beneath the Devil's Sea. The data they retrieved was extraordinary. At depths below 20,000 feet, their instruments recorded methane gas seepage so massive that researchers estimated entire pockets of the ocean floor were releasing tens of thousands of cubic meters of methane in sudden, violent eruptions. This phenomenon, known as methane clathrate destabilization, can reduce water density so dramatically that ships on the surface would lose buoyancy instantly, literally dropping through the water as if the ocean beneath them had ceased to exist. Norwegian researchers at the Arctic University of Norway confirmed in 2016 that massive methane blowouts could create craters on the ocean floor large enough to swallow ships. The Devil's Sea sits directly above one of the largest methane hydrate deposits ever documented. Ships don't just disappear, the ocean itself opens up and swallows them whole. So here's what they don't want you to piece together. The Devil's Sea sits above one of the planet's largest methane hydrate reserves. It lies along the most geologically violent subduction zone in the Pacific. It occupies one of Ivan T. Sanderson's vile vortices, a point of measurable electromagnetic anomaly. It contains the Yonaguni Monument, a structure that may prove an advanced civilization existed here 10,000 years before recorded history. The Japanese government classified the Kaiyo Maru investigation. The U.S. Navy still won't declassify its submarine operations in these waters. And JAMSTEC's 2013 methane data, the study that could explain decades of disappearances, received almost no international media coverage. Every piece of this puzzle exists in the public record. Every institution that has investigated the Devil's Sea has either gone silent or buried what it found. The ocean is not the mystery here. The silence is. And the question that should keep you awake tonight is simple. What else has been lost in those waters that we were never told about? The Devil's Sea has been devouring ships and lives for centuries, and the truth about what lurks beneath those waters remains locked behind government silence and scientific denial. If this investigation opened your eyes to the mysteries hiding in the Pacific, hit that like button. It helps more people find what's being hidden. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss an investigation. Because the next ship that vanishes in those cursed waters might finally force the world to confront what Japan has known all along.